Hello fellow cultivators, this video we are going to talk about another type of feast build in Tale of Immortal. And so we are not going to talk about the most broken build in this game, Hillbreaker Fist, also known as Fist Ditto. Basically you build up shield and then you use Hillbreaker to blow up the shield and deals a ton of true damage. And it is probably the best build in this game combined with Fire Motion and Fire Secret Manual because you literally one-shot everyone. But I know even though many people who love this, and myself I do like Hillbreaker, but I know also there are a lot of people who doesn't like it. I mean, it is all about personal preference, right? And so this video we're going to talk about a different type of fist. So Ironbody Fist. I mean, there are some fist, build showcase videos in my channel which does not really have any explanation of how it works, and most of them are in the late game when you already have the set effect, which makes the Ironbody Fist even much better. However, Ironbody Fist, it is a skill that you can use it even in middle to late game. I mean, it's not like you have to wait till the tradition 4 set effect to use it. So this video I'm going to show you how does Ironbody Fist works in this game, and in my opinion it is actually quite good. It is extremely safe and it also deals quite a good damage. So let's first start by a few battles against 551 Beast. That's my favorite enemy because North and Soul time is the time when you can sort of min-max your a bit. Well, this character is actually not built around Ironbody Fist at all. You can sort of see that it is more like an Earth character, and so I just learned Ironbody Fist as well as Serene Fist with Bone Fracture. So these two are the two basic things. How does this build work? 2 skills, and if you want Fire Motion and Fire Secret Manual, that is always there to boost up your damage. And since we have Bone Fracture Fist to stun enemies, so we also build up Fist Divine Power, and you can see that it's actually even in Golden Core and not even red, so it's not optimized at all. Similarly, my techniques, defense as well as Sutra, so HP, are also in Golden Core. The only thing I have really good, which is the one mind skill I always try to optimize, which is always move, which increase your attack. That's why I have 12k attack, but 1.2k attack at North and Soul, and also mastery. It is not great, as you can see it is a wood mastery, so I do not even have the very important sub skill, which is cooldown for my special skill, but it still works. I mean, if I have cooldown with special skill, I can keep my Ironbody Fist on all the time, but in this case, because I do not have the cooldown sub skill, I cannot keep it on, but it still works. And yeah, let's go with it. Start with our old friend Jiaolong. And yeah, I do not even equip ultimate. So start with Fire Motion and then we just switch on our Ironbody Fist. And you can see that all the shield shadows goes around me like a giant wall. So this not only will block any projectiles going towards me, but also because while my martial skills dealing with Bone Fracture, and therefore all the shield shadows around hitting the enemy, it will trigger the Bone Fracture and have the chance to stun Jiaolong. And therefore you can see Jiaolong was not able to move at all. And also if you look more carefully, there are some more straight shield shadows are going towards the Jiaolong's head, and that is an effect when this shield shadow hitting the enemy with Bone Fracture. And this is what makes the damage a bit more. So basically, yeah, the entire battle, Jiaolong didn't move a single thing. And we also do not get a single hit a single time. Damage taken 0. And in this battle against Du, I want to explain it a bit more in detail. So first of all, around my character, you can see this round yellow-like thingy, like a ball. That is a standard shield I always have when you equip a Fist martial skill. You enter the battle with shield, and also if you have good guide, you will, every time you use skill with MP, you will generate shield. But then there is all these 4 shield-like thingies going around me. Yeah, that is the shield shadow I was talking about from the Ironbody Fist. And apart from this, you can also see this straight looks like an arrow thing going towards you, shooting there. And that is the shield shadow burst from a sub-skill of Ironbody Fist. And apart from that, you can see generally might have a Fist shadow, that is Serene Fist. And also, you can sort of see that there is the tiger and dragon head going around Lu's region. That is the tiger spirit dragon, so destiny I had. And basically This build is your damage are mainly coming from your Ironbody Fist, those shields, Shield Shadow hitting deal damage, Shield Shadow boosts deal damage, as well as each time you will trigger that Tiger Dragon deals damage. Alright? Okay, back to explanation time. So, let's start from martial skill. Serenity Fist. I mean, without doubt this is the one fist type of martial skill you should use, because not only it is the fastest one, but also have multiple hits, so which allows you to reliably apply the Bone Fracture debuff, or if you're using the Heal Breaker, which allows you to reliably apply the shield buff. Anyways, Bone Fracture debuff is really the key in this build. Not only it allows you to hit enemies and stun them so that you become much safer, but also because Ironbody Fist have the sub-skill, as you can see from the previous demonstration, that every time the Shield Shadow hits target inflicted with Bone Fracture, it will unleash a Shield Shadow Blast. Okay, it's called Blast, not Burst, sorry. You can look at the fourth sub-skill there, and dealing more fist damage. And so this means that you need to use Bone Fracture debuff to work with Ironbody Fist. That's how the build works. And yeah, martial skill, that's basically it. And you should have this, I mean, every single martial skill you equip in this game, in every single build, you should almost always have the skill cooldown, that sub-skill apply with it. Because that one sub-skill is almost as good as 3 levels of martial skill specialization. It just really needs to have that sub-skill with any martial skill. In this case, minus 0.2 seconds, or from the base cooldown 0.7 seconds. And as you can see, that's quite a lot of cooldown reduction. And yeah, now let's talk about Ironbody Fist, which is the main thing about this. So it generates 4 shield shadows and lasts for 6.6 seconds, surround you. You have sub-skills which increase the duration 1.65 seconds, which makes it to 8.2 seconds. Okay, and the cooldown, base cooldown 12 seconds, and you have sub-skill minus 3 seconds, make it 9 second cooldown. So if you do not have any cooldown reduction from your mastery, just like me, then you would have 0.7 seconds-ish time without the shield shadow around you. But if you, as long as you have any reduction in the mastery, then you can keep those shield shadow on all the time. And those shield shadows, first of all, they block incoming projectiles, which means it makes you safer. And that is one important thing about this build. It is extremely safe. It's almost one of the safest builds, as just like Sword Wind or, for example, the Frost Brand, the water one. And again, just like the water one, you have the Frozen as well as generating shield on top of the pool, right? So there are 2 layers of safety to protect you. This one has 3 layers. First of all, you have your general fist shield. So when you equip a fist martial skill, you receive a shield when you enter a new room. And then, of course, when you have a guide, every 1 energy you use cast skill, you will receive more shield. So that shield is basically already allows you to protect you from damage. And then you have the shield shadows going around you, blocking projectiles. And then you have the Bone Fracture, which allows you to stun the enemy and control the enemy, so the enemy can't do much to you. Even if they wake up from a stun, occasionally their attack will most likely be blocked first by the shield shadows, and then being blocked by your own shield. So that's why in the 2 battles against Jiaolong and Lu, I received 0 damage. And this is just how the safety part. Now talking about the damage part. First of all, each shield shadows, when they hit the enemy, it will deal 300 fist damage. And it's not a lot at nothing, so I know, but since it's going around you quite fast, so it will hit the enemy quite a lot of times. So it is a multiple hit type of special skill. It's not like 1 hit. And that's one thing, but also, as I mentioned before, you have this sub-skill in the first one. When it hits a target with Bone Fracture, which should be all the time, it unleashes Shield Shadow Blast, which deals another 260 fist damage. So 310 plus 260, that's 570-ish. 575 fist damage each time your Shield Shadow hits the enemy. So, and of course, to make this special skill better, you want the Shield Shadows to go very fast and do a lot of multiple hits. That's why you need this 6 sub skill. Shield Shadows will revolve around you 80% faster. that's 80% damage increase. So you can consider it like that. It is that straightforward. And this one sub-skill is 80% damage increase is better than most of the destinies. And this is one of the reasons I always say that skills and sub-skills are way more important compared to destinies. And people, especially new players, are focusing too much on destinies rather than actually build up your skills properly. And I think that's basically it. And if you want you have the 8 sub-skill, every time Shield Shadow hits target with Bone Fracture, you receive more shield points, basically makes you a bit more safer, but it's really not really necessary in this case as well. The best thing sub-skill in this skill is duration, cooldown, that's always there, and of course, when you hit the Bone Fracture, it deals more damage, that's already 80% damage increase, and then revolve you around 80% faster, another 80% damage increase. So that's what makes Ironbody Fist good. Now, since it is a special skill that deals multiple hits, so that means it always works good with Tiger Dragon, so Tiger Spirit Dragon Soul. I mean, I already mentioned this in my Rewrite Destiny guide in that episode, which talks about Tech Destinies. So Tiger Spirit Dragon Soul, every time when your special skill hits the enemy, there's 40% chance to deal additional damage based on your martial skill and your spiritual root. There is a buff, it's not your total martial and total root, it's more like one of them. But also there's another bug, which is it says triggers maximum 1 time every 2 seconds, but it's not. This so-called maximum 1 time every 2 seconds is actually talking about different skills, special skills, which basically means there's no limit, because you anyways cannot reduce your special skill cooldown below 2 seconds without those special sub-skills. So in this case, when your shield shadow going around you, hitting the enemy all the time, and the blast also hitting, each time they hit the enemy, they will have 40% chance to trigger the Tiger Dragon thing, and therefore increase your damage quite a lot. So it is a very nice destiny for you to have, especially in early to middle game. And since we are on the destiny page, let's talk about things. I mean, this build, just like Hillbreaker, it does not depending on the much of destiny at all, and that's what I like about it. Like, this character is not even built up for this, so I have King of Dark River, so this is really just destiny for summon build. It's not good for this build at all. So if you want to make it better, you should choose Supernova Sword, which at least increase your damage frequency so that you can hit the enemy faster to trigger the stun more. So that is better, but you also don't need it. As you can see, even without Supernova Sword, the enemy is mostly stunned all the time. And I consider this a very important advantage because it's not depending on real destinies, just like Hillbreaker, which means if you want to change in late game to Hillbreaker Fist, you are not worried about, oh, I'm choosing the wrong destiny. It doesn't matter. You can choose any destinies which is good for this build, and it's probably also good for Hillbreaker, or at least does not harm it. And Foundation sub-skill have Water Burst, which is generally good for every build, and that's why it's just set it here. And one thing which is actually a good sub-skill destiny for this build is Spirit Fusion. Basically, it allows you to trigger your your special skills a few more times, even though it deals 30% less damage, right? This is bad. But good thing about this, those shield shadows, they are not only for damage, but also for blocking projectiles. As you can see in my first battle against Jiaolong, initially when I triggered Spirit Fusion, I generate more like 8 or 12 shield shadows around me. It forms a complete wall, which blocks all the projectiles around me. So it is actually good in that way. But also, since our damage output is not only just the special skill itself, but also the fact that we will trigger Tiger Dragon, which is also a damage source. And the more shield shadows around you, which means the more chance you will hit enemy with Bone Fracture. So that will have more chance to stun the enemy, which makes you safer. And finally, I'm not sure, but if this shield shadow blast, which is also 30% damage less, not 30% less, but only deals 30% damage. If it is, then it is what it is. But if it is not affected by the 30% damage thing, then it is good. And also, Spirit Fusion in general is nice, since that's, again, for Hillbreaker Fist, even if you take this thing, it doesn't hump it. It's just good enough. And of course, if you want to make this build more optimized, you should probably take Murderous Rise as well as Concealed Nirvana. Concealed Nirvana is almost not needed because you just have 3 layers of protection around you. But Murderous Rise is actually very good for this build. So I will probably take Murderous Rise as Soul Formation Enlightenment. That's how it is. And yeah, because Murderous Rise will allow you to deal more enter the guarantees crit, and since you have the Bone Fracture to stun the enemy and you have the Feast Divine Power, which means you are guaranteed to deal 5 times maximum critical damage. So Murderous Rise definitely good for it. I think that's basically it. I mean, you can see that you can build this thing around mid-game, you know, when you are in Immortal region as well as in Mushian regions. I mean, till Enlightenment, I think the build still works the same way. But just a small warning that do not try to use Bone Fracture, Serene Feast when you are in early game. And this is because you, in the early game, not only you do not have enough Feast Shadows. So here I have 6 Serene Feast, and I can add more with sub skills. And in the early game, you do not have that many, and it is not that reliably you can hit the enemy and stun it. And dealing with early game bosses like Dunkang or Hatui, it is all about their attack pattern, and you attack them when they are not attacking you. You know when it's safe time to attack. But if you stun them in the middle and do not permanently stun them, you break their attack pattern. So when they wake up from the stun, inevitably, since you cannot permanently stun them, they will unleash attack that you do not know what it is. So it actually make your thing much more difficult. And I think the best example is against the Leviathan. It's at least in the version before this, because I haven't tried to use stun against Leviathan after. Every time you stun them, the Leviathan will start hitting you again. And it basically makes the fight much more difficult. So a warning, do not use Bone Fracture or Serene Feast in early game. That's how it is. It is what it is. And just use any kind of skills build. I mean, early game there's no build anyway. You just remember the boss attack pattern and go through it. No matter what kind of build, it's always the same thing. You just shoot out different colors of projectiles. That's how it is. And once you enter the middle game around this region, you start to build this, and Ironbody Fist, it's actually very easy to build. You just need to equip 1 special skill and 1 martial skill, and that's it. As you can see, I do not even have the ultimate. But if you want ultimate, the Shield Fist ultimate is generally good, but I think you do need the combat expertise to use that ultimate. Otherwise, you can use any other ultimate depending on what kind of combat expertise you have. And yeah, Fire Motion, Fire Secret Menu, and if you have the combat expertise Fire Phoenix ultimate, it's the best damage amplifier in the game. As usual, it is great to have, but it is not necessary. I mean, as you can see from the battle, I could easily do it without Fire Motion as well. It's just instead of I finish the battle in 1 minute, maybe I take 2 minutes. That's about it. It doesn't really change anything about the build, how it works, because the whole basic thing that you are stunning the enemy, you're generating a shield, you're dealing damage, that is still there. Okay, I think that's basically everything, and I will not bore you with more battles for it. I mean, because it is quite simple and straightforward, but it is also quite effective and safe. So as usual, thank you for watching, and if you like this content, please consider leave a like and subscribe to my channel. And I will see you next time.